Imagine stepping into what you believe is an ordinary elevator, but as the doors close, the lights flicker, and suddenly, you're not alone. A pale, ghostly figure stands behind you, whispering your name. Your heartbeat pounds in your ears. You turn around, but nothing's there. You try to tell yourself it's your imagination, but then, suddenly, the figure appears right in front of you. Or maybe you're browsing an antique store, just looking around, when something catches your eye. A dusty, old porcelain doll, sitting on the shelf. Its glassy eyes stare ahead, lifeless. You laugh it off, until the doll blinks and its head slowly turns to look directly at you. Pranks. They're supposed to be funny, right? A quick scare, a little laughter, and everyone moves on. But not these. Tonight, we're diving into the top 5 scary pranks that will leave you screaming, pranks so terrifying, they made some people run for their lives, while others nearly passed out from fear. Now, you might be thinking, I don't scare that easily. But here's the thing, when fear feels real, your brain doesn't stop to question if it's a prank. It reacts on instinct, your body goes into fight or flight mode, your breathing speeds up, your vision narrows, and for those few horrifying moments, you believe you are in real danger. Some of these pranks went so far that victims had full-blown panic attacks. One person even fainted. Another was so terrified, they ran straight through a glass door. And at least one victim actually cried in fear. These pranks weren't just about jump scares. They played on people's deepest fears, the fear of being trapped, haunted, cursed, or worse. And trust me, you do not want to be the person in our number 1 prank. But before we start, I have a challenge for you. Watch this entire video, with the lights off. Think you can handle it? If you make it through, hit that like button, and tell me in the comments, which of these pranks would you survive? And here's a twist. If at any moment you flinch, jump, or scream, come back and comment the exact timestamp when it happened. Let's see who makes it through without breaking. Are you ready? This is your final warning, because things are about to get seriously creepy. Alright. Let's begin. Coming in at number 5, an innocent elevator ride turns into someone's worst nightmare. Coming in at number 5, we have a prank that takes place in the most unlikely of places, the elevator. Picture this, you step into an elevator after a long day, ready to get to your floor. The doors close, but suddenly, the air feels thick, and the lights flicker. For a moment, something seems off. The elevator jerks. The lights flicker again. You feel a chill down your spine, your heart starting to race. Just as you try to brush it off, you see her. A pale, disheveled woman standing quietly in the corner. Her eyes seem lifeless, staring straight ahead. At first, you think she's just another passenger, but then, her mouth opens wide. Her head tilts toward you, and her eyes lock on yours. The panic creeps in. You can't move. You can't breathe. Is this real? Or is it a sick joke? Just as you begin to panic, the elevator suddenly stops. The lights flicker and go completely dark. You hear a voice, whispering your name from behind you. The victim screams, frantic, trying to get out. The doors finally open, and the woman's form vanishes. The twist? The woman is not real. It's an actor planted to scare the victim, and the lights and eerie sounds are part of the prank. The reaction from the victim, screaming and running, makes it clear this terrifying experience was far from a joke. The prank preys on the deep fear of being trapped with someone, or something, you can't explain. It's the kind of feeling that lingers, even after the prank ends. The victim is left shaken, unsure if they'll ever look at elevators the same way again. So, there you have it. Number 5, a terrifying elevator encounter that left many people screaming for their lives. And if that was unsettling, just wait until you see what's coming next. Coming in at number 4, we have a prank that taps into one of the oldest fears known to humankind, dolls that seem too alive. Now, picture this, you're inside an antique shop, browsing through dusty shelves filled with strange and eerie artifacts. Old paintings with eyes that seem to follow you, creaky wooden floors that groan under your footsteps, and then, you see it. Sitting in a glass case is an ancient porcelain doll, its face frozen in a blank, eerie smile. Something about it feels wrong. Its glassy eyes seem to stare right through you. But you tell yourself it's just a doll, just an object. So, out of curiosity, you lean in for a closer look. Then, it blinks. Your heart stops. You stare at it, unsure if you imagined it. Your mind races, trying to rationalize what just happened. But before you can react, the doll's head slowly turns toward you. The store goes dead silent. Every hair on your body stands on end. Your breathing is shallow. And then, it speaks. In a soft, broken whisper, it says, "I see you." Panic sets in. You stumble backward, knocking into shelves. Some people scream. Others run straight out of the store without looking back. The fear is paralyzing. And here's the twist, the doll was rigged. Hidden cameras, remote-controlled blinking, and a small voice box triggered at just the right moment turned an innocent antique store visit into a full-fledged horror experience. The doll's movements were subtle enough to feel real, making the victim question their own sanity. Why is this so effective? Because dolls are a psychological nightmare. They exist in the unsettling valley between lifelike and lifeless. We associate them with innocence, but when they move on their own, that contrast becomes horrifying. For some victims, this fear didn't end after the prank. Some reported feeling watched long after leaving the store. Others swore they heard whispers in the dark that night, as if the doll had followed them home. It's the kind of fear that lingers in your mind, a fear you just can't shake. And that, my friends, is why the cursed doll prank lands at number 4. But if you thought this was terrifying, you're going to want to hold on to your seat, because things are about to get even worse. Coming in at number 3, we have a prank that taps into something deeply unsettling, mirrors that don't reflect reality. Now, imagine this, you step into a dimly lit public restroom, the flickering fluorescent lights giving off a cold, eerie glow. It's late, and no one else seems to be around. You wash your hands, glance up at the mirror, and for a moment, everything seems fine. Until, your reflection doesn't move. Your breath catches in your throat. You wave your hand, nothing. You blink, but your reflection doesn't blink back. Panic rushes through you. And then, it smiles. The face in the mirror twists into a distorted, sinister grin. The eyes darken, the skin stretches unnaturally, and suddenly, it lunges forward. Some victims stumble backward, screaming. Others bolt out of the restroom, convinced they just saw something impossible. The fear is primal, it taps into the part of your brain that whispers, something is terribly wrong. But here's the reality, it was all a setup. This prank uses a two-way mirror with an actor hidden behind it, mimicking the victim's every move, until the moment they break the illusion. The timing is perfect, the transformation is subtle at first, but when the final moment hits, pure terror. But some versions of this prank took it even further. In one case, the victim's reflection turned into something inhuman, its eyes turning completely black, mouth stretching open unnaturally wide, revealing jagged teeth. Some victims collapsed in sheer panic. Others ran straight into the stalls, barricading themselves inside, too afraid to move. Some even refused to leave, convinced the mirror had shown them something real. Why does this prank work so well? Because mirrors are deeply psychological. We trust them to show reality. When they break that trust, it shatters our perception of what's real. Some victims refused to look into mirrors for days after the prank. A few admitted they started avoiding public restrooms altogether. The mind games didn't stop when they left that room, the fear lingered. One victim later claimed that night, when they looked into their own bathroom mirror at home, they saw something move that shouldn't have. Another even slept with a towel over their mirror, afraid of what might look back at them. And that, my friends, is why the demon in the mirror prank lands at number 3. If you thought this one was terrifying, get ready, because the next prank takes things to an entirely new level. Coming in at number 2, we have a prank that preys on one of the most terrifying scenarios imaginable, being trapped with something you can't escape. Now, imagine this, it's late at night. You're exhausted, ready to go home, and you hail a taxi. The driver barely speaks, just nods when you give your destination. The cab smells faintly of old leather and something off. Maybe it's just your imagination. You settle into your seat, watching the city lights blur past. But then, you notice something strange. The driver's hands are shaking slightly on the wheel. His breathing is heavy. And then, without warning, the radio crackles to life. But there's no music. No station. Just whispering. Unintelligible, guttural voices hissing through the speakers. The hair on your arm stands up. You glance at the driver, his face is eerily blank. Then, he turns to you. His eyes are completely black. You freeze. Your mouth goes dry. You reach for the door handle, but it won't open. The driver's lips twitch into a slow, unnatural grin. His voice, deep and distorted, mutters, "You shouldn't have gotten in." Panic explodes in your chest. You pound on the door, shouting for help. The radio static grows louder, distorting into demonic voices. The windows fog up, and the car feels smaller. The air is suffocating. Just when it feels unbearable, the taxi suddenly stops. The driver blinks, his eyes normal again. The doors unlock. The victim stumbles out, shaking, gasping for breath. And then, the prank is revealed. Hidden cameras capture the sheer terror on the victims' faces as they realize it was all staged. The driver was an actor, the radio voices were pre-recorded, and the door locks were remotely controlled. Some versions of this prank took it further. In one, the lights in the car flickered violently, the driver's body twitched unnaturally, and the victims heard a disembodied voice whispering their name. Why does this prank work? Because it plays on a primal fear, being trapped, powerless. The victims aren't just scared, they're convinced, for a brief moment, that something truly evil is happening. Some victims refuse to take taxis for weeks afterward. One even claimed to hear whispers in their own car radio the next night. Another reported waking up at 3 a.m. to find their car unlocked, despite being sure they had locked it. And that, my friends, is why the possessed taxi prank lands at number 2. But nothing, and I mean nothing, can prepare you for what's coming next. Finally, at number 1, we have a prank so terrifying, it left some victims completely paralyzed with fear, the living corpse prank. Now, imagine this, you're in a hospital morgue. The air is cold, sterile, and eerily quiet. You're standing next to a row of body bags, the fluorescent lights humming above you. The stillness is unsettling, but you shake it off. You're told this is part of a morgue tour, something routine. Just a quick walkthrough. Nothing unusual. Until something moves. At first, it's just a small twitch. A slight shift of the bag. You freeze, convincing yourself it's nothing. Maybe the air conditioning caused the plastic to ripple. But then, it jerks violently. Your blood runs cold. The bag slowly unzips itself. A pale, lifeless hand slides out. The fingers twitch unnaturally. You want to run, but you're frozen in place. And then, the corpse sits up. Its mouth is slightly open, eyes wide and empty. For a split second, it does nothing, just stares. The air grows heavier. And then, it lunges toward you. Some victims collapse in pure terror. Others scream so loudly, security comes running. A few even lose control of their legs, their bodies refusing to function as fear takes over. One person was so overwhelmed they fainted on the spot. And here's the truth, it was all a prank. The corpse was an actor, hidden in a rigged body bag with a remote control zipper. Subtle movements were timed perfectly to build tension. The final lunge? That was the breaking point for most victims. But here's what made it even worse, some pranks didn't end there. In one version, as the victim stumbles away, the lights flicker and another body bag begins to move. The prank crew pushes it further, making it seem like more than one body is coming to life. Why is this prank so effective? Because it plays on an ancient fear, the fear of the dead not staying dead. The idea that something lifeless could suddenly come back to take you with it. One victim reportedly refused to sleep alone for weeks after the prank. Another claimed they kept seeing shadows moving in their room at night. And at least one person said they couldn't even walk past a hospital at night without feeling like something was watching them. And that, my friends, is why the living corpse prank is the scariest prank of them all. But tell me, which prank would you survive? Let me know in the comments. And there you have it. The top 5 scary pranks that will leave you screaming. From haunted elevators to possessed taxis, from demon reflections to living corpses, these pranks weren't just about jump scares, they played on deep, psychological fears. The fear of being trapped, the fear of something unnatural, the fear of reality breaking apart. Some of these pranks were so intense that victims refused to sleep alone, avoided mirrors, or even stopped using taxis entirely. That's the true power of fear, it lingers. Even after the prank is over, the feeling of unease stays with you. But now, let's turn the tables. Which of these pranks do you think you could survive? Would you be the one who laughs it off, or would you be the one sprinting for the exit? Be honest, drop a comment below and let me know which prank would send you into full panic mode. And here's a challenge, watch this video again with the lights off. If you make it through without flinching, you're braver than most. If you enjoyed this countdown of nightmare-inducing pranks, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more terrifying content. We've got even scarier videos coming soon, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's next. But before you go, let me leave you with one final thought. Pranks are just for fun, right? That's what we tell ourselves. That's what makes them exciting. But sometimes, just sometimes, pranks go too far. What if one of these pranks wasn't really a prank? What if, in the middle of the setup, something unplanned happened? A real shadow where there shouldn't have been one. A whisper in the static that no one recorded. A reflection that kept moving, even after the cameras were off. Some prank actors refused to do another take because they felt something watching them. A few even left the set early, convinced that whatever they were pretending to summon had actually answered. So tonight, watch your mirrors. Lock your doors. And if you hear a voice whisper your name when no one is around, don't blink. Don't turn around. And whatever you do, don't get in the taxi. See you in the next one.